This episode of the Speech Science Podcast is brought to you by Presence Learning. If you're considering a career in teletherapy, you need a therapy platform built specifically to deliver therapy assessments and tools remotely. Rachel, have you ever had to jump into teletherapy?
I have. At the beginning of the pandemic, I had to switch to teletherapy with a bunch of high schoolers. So that was very fun.
What was one of the hard parts that you saw when you were doing teletherapy?
Oh, just the engagement, they weren't as into it. The technology, they're not as comfortable with Zoom or whatever platform we were using, and it switched all the time. So it was a little confusing for them.
Well, Therapy Essentials, which includes the Presence Learning Therapy platform, is so much more than the average video conferencing tool. It was designed by clinicians for clinicians specifically to deliver therapy and assessments online. Rachel, you could have used the Presence Learning platform and its content library full of games and activities sortable by age and interest. Would that have helped?
That for sure would have helped.
You could have personalized your therapy and keep your clients engaged. Also, it has assessments from top publishers.
For more information and to start your free trial, visit presencelearning.com and click on our platform.
The views and opinions expressed during this show do not necessarily reflect the policy
or position of any affiliated workplace or employer. The views and opinions of the show do not constitute recommendations for therapy. Please
contact a licensed SLP for individual consult on your situation.
Please listen carefully.
What is communication?
An essential behavior of life. We have the both blessing and responsibility of trying to foster in others.
It's transmitting a thought from one person to another.
It's the strongest way for two people to convey information to each other.
The back and forth between two people.
Communication is a lifeline.
It's just connection with other people.
Connecting people in terms of ideas or thoughts or needs.
Draws us out of ourselves, draws us into that relationship, builds up our families. Without it, we'd be lost.
Whatever it is that we do to express intent and achieve an impact.
Communication is the ability to express your needs, wants, frustrations, and desires to anyone that you feel needs to have that information.
Welcome to Speech Science, episode number 156. I'm Matt Hott, a speech and language pathologist in Ohio, working in the schools and in home health care with dementia and stroke rehab. Joined, as always, by our Pedialyte, pediatric expert, Michelle Wintering, down in the heart of Texas. How are you, Michelle?
Doing well. Hi, Matt.
Hi. And the PTSD SLP herself. Man, you got to get more letters behind your name. Down in Florida, Miss Rachel Archambault. I also muted you, Rachel, so you have to unmute yourself. How are you, Rachel?
I'm good. I was chomping on a cheese stick. My apologies.
Yeah, I got to turn that down. We are on a audio version of everything. Michael McLeod, our executive functioning expert, should be joining us later in the show. And our adult expert, she's seeing the show Hairspray tonight, so she is unable to join us on air. Have you guys ever seen Hairspray? I've never watched Hairspray.
Yes, I've seen Hairspray, the movie. Yeah, haven't seen it live either.
I would love to see it live. It's one of my favorites.
My wife and I always talk about getting season tickets to Broadway shows when they come through town, and then we realize we only like about 3 of the 6 shows coming through, and we end up never doing it. So
Aww.
I'm always jealous of people that can go to all those shows.
I would love to get a membership to something like that. A season pass.
Me too.
Membership, season pass, right?
Either way, whatever you want to call it. There is no Broadway police that are going to stop you from calling it whatever you want.
Thanks.
You're welcome. On today's episode, we've got our shout out. We got our due process. The new What's Up with ASHA. This one is interesting because it has something to do with OTs and dysphagia. Also, we're going to check out what in the world is the CDC doing with their milestone updates. And of course, Rachel brought us a article linking mono and MS. So we'll be talking about that as well. But we want to hear from you. So make sure you head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. And on the website, you can also make sure you sign up for the Presence Learning Therapy Essentials giveaway. We are recording this on February 24th, and that goes until the end of the first week of March. So make sure you go onto our website and sign up for the Presence Learning Therapy Essentials. It's a 1-year subscription to Therapy Essentials, and we will be picking a winner on episode 157, I believe. Is that right, Michelle?
Yeah, coming up next.
All right. So as Mike McLeod logs on, we'll be checking in with him in a moment. But Rachel, let's check in with you. How has your week been?
My week has been pretty good. Today was one of those days that you think things are going to go smoothly, and then every problem, just one after the other happened. And just at the end of the day today, I just fell back on the couch. Oh, and my air conditioning stopped last night in Florida. So I had a technician here today helping, and I just remember like feeling the hairs on my arm go up, and I was like, oh, I feel a chill. And that was just the best part of my day for sure.
See, in other parts of the country, we're worried about maybe having a snow day tomorrow, and
Wow.
you needed your air conditioning turned on.
We're having an ice storm.
Well, even in Central Texas, it was 2 days ago, it was 75, and my son and I were washing our car. And then yesterday it was 30 with a -11 wind chill. So in Central Texas, that's pretty cold for here.
Wow.
But you know what, though, Rachel, I understand. I was talking to somebody the other day and was talking about how this school year, nothing bad has happened, like huge, like walk away, quit the field, but it's just a bunch of little things that have all kind of stacked up. And yeah, I get it, man. I really do. Michelle, how has your week been?
Well, with this crazy temperature change, it's been throwing me off a little bit because I have no idea what to wear. But other than that, it's really less about me and more I don't know how to dress my children. So I just put them in layers.
Yeah, just layer them up. Let them take everything off at
daycare. They have enough to wear. But their school was closed today.
Why?
Twice a week because of the ice that we had.
What ice?
The really icy roads here. Just because of that freeze. So it was in between with rain and snow. So it just made the roads pretty slick here. And unfortunately, unlike in Ohio, right, they don't salt the roads and everything. So there's not traction.
Fair.
Se. But I also do kind of chuckle because being not from the South, I'm like, what do you mean there's no school for 30 degrees?
Not everyone has coats and boots, right?
Yeah, there were a lot of people wrapped in blankets.
Oh
that
my
I saw
goodness.
today.
See, you know what though, and I'm calling Rachel out because she's a Floridian. Like my wife and I will go down to Disney at Christmas time, and at nighttime it'll drop to like 58 or 60 degrees.
70 degrees.
70, and my wife will be like in a sundress, and I'll be in shorts and like a thin hoodie, and then other people will be looking at us like we're crazies because they're in like full winter regalia, and we're like, y'all, this is like toasty. Enjoy this.
I think it's the
regalia.
Same
that's a big word.
Regalia, yeah. I think it's the same comparison though when you live somewhere with 4 seasons. In the fall, when it gets cold, people start like bundle up like crazy. But as soon as it hits that same temperature in the spring, they're in shorts and tank tops because they're excited.
You're
about
right.
it.
You're right.
So I don't know. I think there's a trade-off there. Plus, isn't there science behind the fact that your blood thins out after you
I
live
thought that was
somewhere?
proven as false. Is that
Is
real?
it? I don't know. I'm asking. I legit don't know.
I don't know if that's actually a thing, but I have heard from people up north that come down here during the winter that the cold down here is a different kind of unbearable. Like the humidity has an extra factor that it gets into your bones and it's so much colder. We had the coldest day of the year last month, and there was a woman in the elevator from New Jersey shivering, and she's like, I made my son drive me back here to get my coat. I'm freezing. And she's like, this isn't like me. So I've had that experience with people that are like, it's not a joke. 70 degrees here is a different kind of 70, or 50 is a different kind of 50.
And that drastic change is the hardest part to me. When it drops in a day 40 degrees, I'm like, oh, come on.
All right. So one article says that as it gets colder, our blood becomes thicker, which can cause clotting, and that's why there's more strokes and heart attacks in the winter. And then another article says the concept of developing thinner blood by moving to a warmer climate is only a myth. So
you have, okay, thank you.
The only answer I do have is that your blood can become thinner as you get older, or thicker, depending on how much water you drink.
Interesting.
So
either way.
Mike, we're not going to ask you how thick or thin your blood is or what regalia you're wearing. How has your week been, my friend?
It's been a good week.
Like my regalia word. I've been playing a lot of Wordle and Quordle, guys. So, Mike, how are you?
I am doing well. I was able to see some friends this week up in New York. Went back to New York and saw some old college pals, which was awesome. And just came back on Monday afternoon because we had a 4-day weekend. And just been right back to it this week.
Love it, dude. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Let's see. For me, it is middle of crazy sports season. So we have made districts again. So every year I've coached. Yeah. For every year I've coached, I have sent either 2 individuals or my whole team to districts. So it's kind of fun to say that.
Go Coach Hot.
And in the process, my coach that I had as my sophomore sent me pictures that I had that were taken of me and my buddies when we were sophomores. So that was interesting to see the fashion times of what I looked like when I was 15 years old. So that was fun. And then also I am now playing Octordle. Have you guys seen this?
Nope.
No.
No way.
You always keep me updated on online.
I'm going to share this with you.
Gosh.
And we're not going to play it. We're not going to play it because it's stupid crazy. But it's like Wordle, except you have 8 screens that you're playing at the same time, and you only get 13 tries. And so, like, when you guess a word, you got to figure out in which puzzle does the letters fit. And
this is Wordle leveled up.
I don't like
Wordle
it.
times 8.
That's too much.
So that's what I've been playing.
Scrolling going on. I want it all on one screen. If I have to scroll, I lose interest.
So no, other than that, I also had my evaluation, and I have been recommended for continuing contract. Whoop, whoop.
What does that mean, Matt?
I don't know what that means, but I think that means that I can't be fired as easily as if I didn't have a continuing contract.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a big deal. The union said it's a big deal, but you know.
Okay. I guess congrats. I don't know.
Oh man, we want to hear from you. Head over to our website, speedsciencepodcast.com, and also check out that Presence Learning giveaway up there. Hey, so we have our SSPOD Shoutout, and the SSPOD Shoutout, hashtag SSPOD Shoutout, is an opportunity for you to tell us somebody that is doing something awesome, or somebody that is going above and beyond, or somebody that we should be recognizing for what they are doing. And we felt with everything that's kind of happening in the world, again, we're recording this on Thursday, February 24th. And in the real world outside of therapy, Russia has currently invaded Ukraine. And over, I believe, is this the medical SLP page, Rachel?
Yeah. Yes.
Brooke Richardson had kind of put out a APB for anyone that's over in the Ukraine. And I found this one from Oksana Lyalka. I apologize if I have butchered your name, but she says she's the chair of the Ukrainian Speech Language Therapist Organization. And at the moment, they just need prayer and consolidation with our army that fights with 2 countries at once. So shout out to any SLPs that are, still going to have to be doing their jobs in the middle of whatever this turns into. So,
and I would also like to extend that to other SLPs that have been in war-ridden countries that are now experiencing re-traumatization from this. Please take care of yourselves during this time.
And families of the military.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, it is the SSPOD Due Process. That is something where if you want to bring it to us and we can discuss, that is your opportunity. Hashtag SSPOD Due Process. And we got one that is a follow-up to the resume conversation we had a few episodes ago. They wrote in and said, as an adult coming from another career, how much of your old career would you put on your new resume? I put none.
Outside of SLP? Is that?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah, none. Especially if you've been in the field for a while, there's really no point.
Well, it says as an adult coming from another career. So I'm guessing like Michelle and I both had other careers and then came into speech therapy.
And
I put none of my old career on it.
Some of my old stuff.
Do you really?
I'm gonna push the other way because it depends on what the job was.
Well, True. I mean, when I hosted the Speech Science podcast, I make sure I mention that I'm a radio host in my previous days, but like, what else?
Yeah, well, for me, I taught, but I worked with people with developmental disabilities.
Yeah, that's right.
And I taught, so for a long time, that was still on my resume. And if it's directly pertinent to a job I'm applying for, I'll put it on there because I do think it shows experience with a nonprofit. It shows experience with a certain population. It shows experience with dealing with other case managers and people outside of speech pathology. So I think it really is dependent on, is it relevant to the job that you're applying for?
But if you're completely out of the field or something, do you just stick with your grad school like internships and everything? Or are you going to say, oh, I once I was a dog groomer or something like that? You know, is that information of what you've been doing for the last 15 years helpful, or is it your grad school internships and who you've been working with that are more pertinent to this job?
I would prioritize it literally in order of what's the most pertinent. So, what are they going to weed out the quickest is, do you have your license? Do you have your C's? So that's at the top of my resume, right? That's where, do I meet the bare bones qualification for this job? And then I put everything specifically related to that job that I'm applying for. And then I put other related experience, which might be other SLP experience or other things connected from there. And if I have room in my resume, like if I'm doing 1 page, 2 page, depends on what form you have to fit it into sometimes, then I would add, because I do think sometimes it's interesting to just have on a resume, or it might intrigue somebody to see, oh, for 15 years they did X, so maybe having that in there would be significant because they're like, yeah, I want to bring this person in. They've got a wealth of some other field, some other experience. It may be worth an interview, even if they have a lot of SLP experience.
I was actually told in grad school to remove bartending and hosting and all that I did to put myself through grad school from my resume because it showed like a moral issue that some people might not agree with.
Fascinating, yeah.
But
how long ago did you graduate?
I graduated from grad school in 2016.
Okay.
And I actually had we had an aphasia house at UCF, and the director of that said that she loved the fact that I was a bartender because I could deal with the clients that had outbursts way better than anyone else because I knew how to handle my drunk clients. So it was, she loved that, and she didn't agree with that statement on the resume. So she told me to put it. But then when someone's telling me that, if you're applying for a school, they look down upon drinking and stuff like that, I'm like, I wasn't drinking on the job. Other people were,
I think that's so funny, though, is that times have changed significantly, even in the last 5 years, on like what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I think a lot of times what grad schools try to do is like produce these little cookie cutter therapists that are like, hey, here's the bare minimum you need to do to just kind of get hired. And after that, it's up to you. But yeah, I've worked in school districts where they're like, please don't drink in the county that you're in. And then in other ones, they're like, yeah, just we're going to have an open bar in the gym. So please don't spill anything on the floor because that's going to be hard to clean up.
I know I answered that with our whole resume discussion of saying it really is dependent on the job, but it is, because there is, in certain areas of the country, there's a huge need for speech pathologists. In other areas, it's a little over, like there's not
saturated,
need, oversaturated. But in the places, in the jobs where there is a big need, they're going to look at the first few things on your resume. Do you have your license and your C's? and that's all they need. Now, other jobs that are more competitive, maybe somebody who is a bartender is going to stand out or has that history, like you said, Rachel.
Do you think it's an age thing too?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
that was, I was hoping more of an answer on that, but yeah, I guess yes is the right answer.
No, and I think that also goes along with tattoos, and I can have that discussion forever. And I mean, my school that I worked at, we had like memorial tattoos, and it was a bonding thing between the teachers and the 18-year-old students that had like chest pieces and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was, we had like a yearbook thing about it, but just tattoos in general, I think people, I am shocked when I see on Facebook posts like, I have a little thing on my wrist. Is it okay if I go into a school? And I'm like, are we still doing that? And I know in some places they are. Like, I'm very lucky that I'm in the place that I am, that I get to see all this like beautiful artwork on people's hands and their, history teachers or whatever. I think that's really cool.
I mean, on my TikTok rabbit hole, I spend my lunchtime on, there was like a dental hygienist or whatever, and she had like neon green hair. And her response was to somebody who was like, if I came in and you were my dental hygienist with that hair, I'd leave. Unprofessional. Side note, I love the hashtag unprofessional, but whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, maybe we are still doing this. So
I think in some places, but I think for the most part, we are changing to be more accepting. I hope. That's my hope.
So, Maureen, I hope that answers your question on should you or should you not put stuff from your previous career? And the answer is maybe.
Maybe.
Depends on what it is.
Depends.
Run it by us first. Send us your resume. We'll take a look.
Hey, who did that? Who was that we had on air? I feel so bad that I forget her name.
Maureen?
No, it wasn't Maureen. The one that came in to talk about the resume.
Yeah, she came on last minute on an episode. It was great.
I'm going to look through my Facebook messages real quick.
Give
her
another
name
shot.
was, she's probably listening, and she's like, how do you guys forget who I was?
Nothing like Matt going through his inbox, dead air.
Was it Meryl? No, it wasn't Meryl.
If it makes you feel better, I
She
looked
had a
at
really
him.
unique name that I love.
She
but I
did.
can't think of it.
That is true. When I saw Matt at ASHA and I looked at him and we had just done the interview shortly before that, he was like, did we go to grad school together? So don't feel bad.
Did we go to grad school together? Goodness gracious.
Oh, man.
Yes. I still feel terrible about that because you like spotted me as I was coming up the escalator and I was like, I have no idea who this person is.
Well, I still think it's
at
funny that,
all.
Mike, I feel like I've known you for 4 years and
I
I've never
know.
met you in person yet.
It's crazy.
Anywho,
I'm much better through the screen.
If you have a due process or an SSPOD shout out, please do not hesitate to reach out. And you can email those in as well. speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's jump into the biggest news on the therapy realm right now. And that is the CDC's changes to developmental guidelines. So in a nutshell, the biggest changes that they have done is they've added checklists for ages 15 to 30. They have identified social and emotional milestones. They've removed vague
15
language.
months and 30 months.
Yes.
15 to 30
Sorry.
months.
Did I say years? I apologize.
You just
and 30.
15 and 30 months. I apologize. Remove some vague languages like may or begins. And then also have shifted the percentages from what was, I believe, the 75th percentile down to about the 50th. It was at the 50th.
50th.
And now it's the 25th?
To the 25th percentile.
25th percentile.
25th percentile rank, but it means 75% of kids at a given age meet that milestone.
Yes. Okay.
Gotta
Yes.
think about
Okay. I had to think about that.
Yes.
Okay.
There
25th percentile. If I put 100 kids on the wall at the 25th percentile, they need to be doing this at the bare minimum, which means that there are at least 75 other kids doing that or more. Okay. So on paper, I don't understand how anyone could be upset with this.
Right. So surface level, we have to remember they're not theoretically they're trying to adapt this to make it more user friendly so that people can look at their website and, for example, the 15-month and the 30-month, any parent knows that those are typical well child visits where you're supposed to take your kid into their pediatrician. So as a parent, I like the fact that they're now saying, hey, like we're showing milestones that line up with when your kid is typically seeing a pediatrician. So from that standpoint, I'm like, okay, that's a check in the positive box. But some of the stuff that sort of stood out to me, and I've been looking at the CDC website, looking at summaries on other websites that other SLPs have pulled, is that the CDC has said that they are issuing this to try to make it so people will not just wait and see when to identify their kid. And I'm assuming maybe that's because, okay, so now we're saying 75% of kids have met this by 30 months old, that the pediatrician is going to be more likely to give a referral if they don't meet those milestones. I think the problem is you're already missing kids who would need early intervention before that. So, okay, you've got a lot of kids who are doing that. 75% of kids are already doing those skills. So a lot of 75% of parents are going to fly through that checklist and be like, yeah, my kid's good. But what about that 25% who maybe could have used help 3 months, 5 months before? And so that's the biggest thing. They haven't changed the norms, but it seems a little haphazard. And for me, working in pediatrics and this being my expertise, and then having my own kids going through a lot of these developmental milestones as well, it just feels inconsistent. Like some of them sound appropriate for a given age, and some of them seem like, whoa, that's like, I would want to see a kid well before, for example, 30 months old if they're not using approximately 50 expressive words.
Didn't they also say something about from the PT or OT side, erasing crawling as a milestone?
I didn't check.
Yes, I saw that. Crawling is no longer a milestone. Yes.
Okay, so that I know from the OT and PT side was a major thing that we'd like to know when our kids are crawling, at what age that is, and just to go from they're immobile, like they're not doing anything, and then now they're walking. That's a big gap of milestones. Yeah, I think that was another thing. But ASHA put out a statement, right? They put out a statement saying that they disagree with the CDC's decision to change these milestones and the fact that SLPs were not involved in the discussion. That is the main thing. I'm trying to pull it up. They're in the process of analyzing the revisions. It's just, I don't know how to explain how they just came up with this decision. And I think also the interpretation of this decision has gone a little bit wayward on social media. For example, I've seen on Instagram the last week, SLPs as well posting that the statistics or the milestones that the CDC has suggested, and kind of saying that this is due to the pandemic, that masks have caused this change in CDC milestones and they're sweeping it under the rug. I don't think it's clear. Like Michelle was saying, that it's meant to be like parent friendly, and I think it's missing the mark in a lot of ways.
And like you said, it's causing people, because of this timing, do I think you should relook, checklists and how we help parents and we help families and we help professionals, including pediatricians, appropriately refer to people like us. I do want that information out there. My issue with this is that, the timing as well, just like Rachel said, is making people think, and I've seen memes shared around about it, of the CDC says the pandemic hasn't impacted development, but now they're changing the milestones. And I would clarify at least what I've looked at, and then some of the summaries I've looked at as well, have all said, and if you look at the citations on the CDC website, they're looking at studies from prior to the pandemic, at least what they list as their sources. So it's not even taking into consideration any changes due to COVID in language, communication, social, emotional milestones. So I think that, yes, that's something we should be looking at and considering with kids in early intervention, but these norms, these milestones aren't considering it.
What was their motivation for doing this?
Who, the CDC?
Yeah.
I don't think we have a reason for that other than Michelle was saying to be more parent accessible or friendly.
Yeah, so in there, they have a press release that I saw on WPTV, actually on West Palm Beach. And it said that it was done to update. The last time it was done was in 2004 as part of the CDC's Learn the Signs, Act Early campaign. So it was done to allow parents, to identify a child, the earlier a child is identified with a developmental delay, the better treatment as well as learning interventions can begin.
So they're saying that this is going to help better identify
That's what they're saying.
What a lot of professionals, including myself and you all and other people I've spoken to about this, feel is that it's going to under-identify people. And my worry is that it also would give another reason for insurance companies to not approve services.
There you go. There you go.
So that's probably my biggest worry, is that now you're going to have a documented reason that insurance companies are going to be like, well, that milestone's not until X. So
Michelle nailed it.
Going to cover it.
Yeah, that's
it.
true.
That's it. There you have it right there.
And now Mike's going to go into a tangent about capitalism again this
episode. There we go.
So
hey.
I do want to say this.
Insurance companies in general.
So they've also got a little app that I'm trying to mess around with for my daughter right now, which is the CDC has a new milestone app. So I'll punch those in here in a moment. But like the old way wasn't working. And I'm upset as well that the people that know development seem to not have been part of the conversation.
It said they had a dozen, it just said experts in development, and it included a special educator and a few other people. No, I didn't note any physical therapist, occupational therapist, or speech pathologist.
But the problem with the old way was too many pediatricians were already not recommending therapy or early intervention.
And I've experienced it. Pediatricians would say, oh, just wait till
they're walking, so they'll talk a little bit later, or X, Y, or Z. So like I can kind of see why this was even started, because the old way wasn't working. The Know the Signs Act Early campaign didn't result in a lot of early intervention help, because there's too many kids that were still showing up, in kindergarten or first grade with deficits. I mean, there's a buddy whose son is pretty hard of hearing that they didn't know about until first grade hearing test. And the pediatrician missed it for like 7 years. So I don't know.
And the pediatrician is seeing them for let's get
Matt has this devil advocates thing down pat. We can make the best argument against something, and then he'll come right back saying, you know what, the old system didn't work.
Well, and I'm with Matt on this, that it needed an update, or needs, and I say still needs an update. Let's be honest, the new update is not sufficient.
Correct. But the problem is that that they did not consult with specialists with the right people in this area. Exactly.
Yeah. Because if I'm a parent, not an SLB parent, and I pull up this page, right, that the CDC has this milestone list, I can check through different ages that actually align with my child's well visit. And it does have a little box on the side that says, this I think is a positive. It says, if you know your child best, in bold, don't wait. If your child is not meeting one or more milestones, has lost skills they once had, or you have other concerns, act early. Talk to your child's doctor. Ask about developmental screening. Ask for a referral to a specialist. Call your state or territory's early intervention program. So that is in a little box on the side of this webpage. And that sort of thing I really appreciate, because a lot of people are not going to click through the rest of the norms, right?
Mhm.
But like we said, it's the SLPs were not part of looking at this, because I'm looking at, from my perspective, pediatric SLP, these motor skills that involve feeding, and I'm looking at this language development stuff. And unless I missed it, there's also word count again. Verbal words are only one count, but I don't see anything about a verbal word count other than 50 words at 30 months. And I think they said attempting mama and dada and a couple other words at another milestone. So from a verbal language, from a nonverbal language, from a motor skills for feeding side, it just seems to miss the mark. It almost feels a little bit random as to which skills they put under each block.
So, okay, so I just messed around with the app for my daughter, and anyone listening to the show knows that she is deaf on one ear, partially deaf in the other, and is missing part of the vestibular system. And so I kind of filled it out as best as I can. And there were questions on the social side, language side, cognition side, and movement side. And it's kind of like a little checklist app. And some of the language side questions were, now she's almost 17 months, responds to simple spoken requests. Yes, not sure, not yet. Uses simple gestures, blah, blah, blah. And when I got to the very back page, it says, because you selected not yet for a milestone checklist item, it may be time to talk with your doctor about your child's development.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry.
I just found an Instagram post, 5 good reasons the CDC left crawling off the milestone list, ...
What are they saying?
It was 5 slides of nothing.
Who are you going to credit for that?
Okay, so this was Grow Well PT, and that I was looking for some information, and that just caught me off guard. I thought that was really funny, but it's true that this is PTs, OTs, and speech that were not included on the CDC milestone, discussion, and it's being misinterpreted, and it's also, we were left out of the discussion to help talk about what we know best. Yeah.
And are the pediatricians that they talk to going to, remind everyone of our intro to stats class? And how many times in my career, I don't know if you all feel this way, that I've drawn a simple bell curve to make sure that what I'm explaining is clear, because it gets frustrating for parents to hear 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and we tend to automatically think on that 1 to 100 scale, when really that's not what a bell curve is either. So this, I feel like there's not good information on this webpage to remind people, and even remind professionals, including SLPs, that this has shifted, their descriptions have shifted from being at the 50th percentile to 75% of kids to the 25th percentile.
And along the lines of what you're saying, Michelle, with like showing parents the bell curve of where their child is falling if they're in the 25th percentile, that is a scary thing for them to see. And one person I follow on Instagram is speechologist, and I've been learning more about like neurodiversity affirming practices, especially in our field. And this SLP always talks about how like falling below the 25th percentile doesn't mean there's something wrong with the child that needs to be fixed necessarily. And I know parents can have differing views on that, but the word wrong, or there's areas in which they need support, but wrong is a different kind of word. And having milestones is the development of a primarily neurotypical child, right? So when you have children following different paths, it's a little bit scary, especially for parents. So I think this is just another thing for parents to worry about, that things are a little bit different than what they were.
I would just add too that I feel that my biggest takeaway reading through the website, and I haven't looked at the app that Matt did, is that some of it is more user-friendly, is more accessible for parents to match up with these developmental norms and taking your kid to the doctor for a 15-month and 30-month well child visit. But my worry is that it would give reason for insurance to deny something for early intervention. And then secondly, that it could potentially because being in pediatrics and being in early intervention, I've talked to a lot of parents and I've talked to pediatricians to ask them, please don't wait until 2 words together, 2-word phrases by 2 years old, because that was what so many people were taught, pediatricians wise and other early development people, to say a red flag if they're not putting 2 words together by 2 years old. I would much rather, and please someone write in and let me know what your thoughts are if you work with really young kids too, I would rather see a kid at 18 months old if you feel like there's a concern with them picking up verbal and expressive language than wait until 2 years old, because just like we know, the referral process can bump that until they're 30 months old, they're 2.5, they're before you're going to actually get in for services. So I would much rather have a doctor write a referral at 18 months and be able to get them in by 2 years old than be like, okay, at their 2-year-old well child visit, now we're doing something. So that's not changing. I feel like maybe this will remind doctors, I can hope, my one positive would be maybe this would remind doctors like, hey, if they haven't met this milestone, refer now. Like don't wait, because this is a higher percentage of kids who would meet this by now.
So when I did the little app and I marked a couple of the not sures or not yets, and immediately it comes up and it says, you have noted concerns or selected not yet or not sure for some milestones. Please visit cdc.gov/find early intervention, find EI, or go to cdc.gov/concerned. And then when I click on the little button that says show doctor, it says, and it's a nice big old list, and it says, these are the things that were marked as not occurring yet. And these are the ones that are marked not sure. So it kind of gives a nice list right away to go with what you were saying, Michelle.
To let parents advocate a little more.
Or to even know what they advocate for.
Yeah.
So.
It's just hard because I feel like you have to have like education on
a speech therapy degree to understand your child's language development.
To really feel like you can advocate for it. And, you know, I have a friend who's a PT and her daughter had gross motor delays, and she felt like it still took her at 8 months. She wanted a referral for PT for her kid. And she is a pediatric PT. And she was still told, no, not yet. We don't refer for that yet. Again, at a year, again, at like, it wasn't until 18 months that they finally gave her the referral. So she was trying to be mom and PT. And that's hard. And that's someone who is in this field, who knows what the norms are, who knows what to look for in a young kid, and still had trouble getting that referral. So maybe, hopefully, this could help with that, I guess, but it just seemed to miss the mark with how it was developed and
for sure.
And who was missing from that conversation. And, you know, give a shout out to our friends, right, Matt, at the Informed SLP. If their webpage has a free access, you don't need a membership. If you want to read a little bit more, of course, look at the CDC page, but they did a nice summary analysis of this and of the norms and how they were developed. So it's a good thing. Go take a look over there and sign up for a membership. They're friends of ours.
We'll have the link down below. I think this is a good time. We'll take a short break, head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, and let us know your thoughts on the updated CDC guidelines. You're listening to Speech Science.
And now for our regular research review, brought to you by the Informed SLP. The Informed SLP releases a monthly newsletter that brings you plain language reviews of only the newest, most clinically applicable research, keeping you up to date on advances in the field and saving you tons of time. So let's get to it.
When to be a meerkat, alert but not alarmed. This is a review of the article, Feeding Problems as an Indicator of Developmental Delay in Early Childhood, published in the Journal of Pediatrics. Does anyone else think meerkats are adorable? Seriously, adorable. Arguably, one of the most characteristic meerkat behaviors is when they stand on their hind legs, alert to danger but frozen still, sniffing the air to find out more about the potential threat. Reading new work from Putnick et al. Made us think of these little critters. They know when to be alert, but not alarmed. This group examined parent-reported feeding problems, broadly defined as mealtime distress, food refusal, and oral motor issues. They looked at over 3,500 children at 18, 24, and 30 months of age using the Ages and Stages questionnaire, or ASQ. Usually, an analysis of feeding problems from a few items in a questionnaire wouldn't give us pause. But this group then went on to do a formal face-to-face developmental assessment with a subset of 601 children at 4 years of age, which added a lot of value to this study. Interestingly, they found an increasing association between parent-reported feeding problems and developmental delays on the ASQ as the children aged. Children with reported ongoing feeding problems at 30 months on the ASQ were also more likely to present with developmental delays at 4 years of age using formal assessment. Removing children who had congenital malformations or who were multiples and/or ex-preterm from the group did not change the outcomes. This study suggests that parent-reported feeding problems early in life may be an indicator of developmental delay. That is, a report of early feeding problems should be a red flag for developmental screening. Reported feeding problems persisting into the 3rd year of a child's life may be a bigger indicator for concern regarding development. Feeding problems? Up pops that little meerkat head, alert but not alarmed. Let's keep an eye on things and provide help and support where needed. Still having feeding problems over 3 years? Step up that status and take some action, little meerkat.
Thanks for listening to this review. If you're interested in more, come visit us at www.theinformedslp.com. Tell us how you put the research into practice, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at theinformedslp.
We'll be checking in with the article linking Epstein-Barr virus and MS here in a moment. But first, this episode of the Speech Science Podcast was brought to you by Therapy Essentials, which includes the Presence Learning Therapy platform. It's much more than your average video conferencing tool. It includes everything you need to securely and effectively deliver speech language therapy and assessments remotely. Mike, as a private practice owner, how important is using a remote tool that is safe and HIPAA compliant?
It's incredibly important when you are working with students that are online and they're using the camera within their own home and their home environment. You always want to make sure that their private health information is safe and secure.
Besides it being safe and secure, Presence Learning's Therapy Essentials also includes a content library full of customizable games and activities so you can personalize your therapy sessions to keep your clients engaged, the ability to upload your own therapy content, and a collaborative workspace. So, Mike, those multiple camera angles, how nice would that have been to be working with your student and have multiple cameras to show what you're working on and your face?
That would have been very handy back in March 2020.
So you can also get live in-session chat support to help keep you on track. Presence Learning Platform has everything you need to confidently build your teletherapy career. To learn more and start your free trial today, go to presencelearning.com, presencelearning.com, and click on Our Platform at the top of the homepage. Welcome back to Speech Science, episode number 156. I'm Matt Hott, joined, as always, by Rachel Archambault.
Hello.
Hello. And your beautiful pink new microphone. I love it.
Thanks.
It's a pop of color on the screen on the Zoom. And then Michelle Wintering with the drab black microphone.
I know, I want like lime green or something
right
now.
And Michael McLeod with his black microphone.
What's up, dude?
Hey, I've got the gray. She's got pink. I love it. All right. So on the Conversation website that I use sometimes for therapy, there is a wonderful first date questions. So I thought these would be fun to ask, and we'll do 3 questions. All right. So, and anyone out there that is going on a date, you may use these questions if you need to. The first question is, what is your fast food horror story? I like that question.
Ooh,
do you have a fast food horror story?
It's not so much. Go ahead,
You
Rachel.
go, Michelle. No, go, Michelle.
Okay. I guess this can kind of count as fast food, right? It was an ice cream shop.
Yes, that counts.
I won't name the actual ice cream shop.
Was it Jenny's?
No.
Okay.
It was not Jenny's.
Did it have a drive-through?
No.
So then it's not fast food.
I mean,
anyway, just tell the story.
Pretty
Tell the story.
quickly. I was in college. My friends and I went to get ice cream, and I had a gift card to use. And when you're in college, you walk around with like just your ID and maybe whatever you need, right? Your key. So I had the gift card, I had my ID, and I had my key to my dorm. Like that's all that I had with me because we were going to this ice cream place. And I placed my order, and I felt like I was on an episode of like Punked or something because it was just one thing after another. So they make my milkshake, and the girl goes, "Oh, well, our machine's down. I can't take your gift card." And she expects me to pay with something else. And I was like, I don't have anything else to pay but this gift card for your store. And she's like, "Oh, well, I can't take that payment." And I was like, "Do you want the milkshake back?" Like, I don't know. And so as they're doing this, the other girl is making other ice cream for my friends. There's probably 5 of us, and hands someone the bowl of ice cream. And she's like, "We're out of spoons." And we're like, "What do you mean you're out of spoons?" And she was like, "Yeah, we don't have any spoons. I'm sorry." and so they can't take payment, at least unless it's cash. Apparently, they have no spoons
at the ice cream
shop.
So
the rest of the people ordered milkshakes or something that didn't require a spoon. We all sit down, and then we realized the 2 girls working there had walked out and locked the door, and we were inside the ice cream shop with no employee there. We were just locked inside, and we looked, and they had walked across the street to a gas station.
Jesus.
And they walked back and gave us spoons that they took from the gas station.
See, they were being nice and helpful.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my story. It was just one thing after another.
My only horror story is I found a hair in an omelet and I ate around it.
I mean,
it was a really good omelet.
yeah.
I didn't want to get rid of the omelet.
There you go. I'm okay with that.
Mike, Rachel, any fast food horror stories for the first date questions?
Well, when Michelle started talking about an ice cream shop, and I was like, oh no, because that was fine. That my first job, other than like camp counselor and everything, was at an ice cream shop that had a drive-through and had fast food there as well. And we would make waffle cones like during my shifts. And even to this day, I can't stand the smell of a waffle cone. Like as soon as I walk in a building, I smell a waffle cone. It's like, just hits me in the face.
It's a bummer. I love that.
I love
that smell.
I know.
Love it.
Ruined it.
I can't handle the smell of funnel cakes anymore because I worked at a stand for
a
long while with it.
Yeah, I can handle any food smell that I've ever worked around. I'm fine with it.
Smells don't bother me.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. One more question. Oh, Mike, what was your fast food horror story?
I've had a few times where I've like put in an order for pickup. I remember one time I went to this fish taco place. I put in like a big order. I was starving to get. Don't make that face, Matt. Come on, man. So it's a really good place. It was really nice. It was awesome. And I went, I picked up, I got home, and I took someone else's order, and it was clearly an order for like a 5-year-old. It was like chocolate covered churros and cookies and no tacos whatsoever.
That's sad.
Yeah, that is actually really sad.
Yep.
You ruined some kid's night.
I took a little kid's meal.
Oh, I was more sad that you didn't have tacos in your order. That was devastating.
Both.
Oh. All right. So we can do more of the hot topic questions later, but the conversationstartersworld.com is where I get these wonderful questions from. All right. So our second article of the night, and now I can't find it, is linking mono and MS. And Rachel, you stumbled across this one. What is going on? And I had mono twice when I was 12 and then again when I was 16. So what's going on? What do I need to look for?
All that kissing, man.
I know. So
Making out with drinking fountains. That's what I was doing.
I had mono in college.
I didn't mute my mic. I'm sorry.
She's just cracking up. I had mono in college, and my brother had it shortly before, so it was really not great to say, oh, I got mono from my brother. It was the worst.
No.
But so Harvard School of Public Health had a study that came out. Epstein-Barr virus may be leading cause of multiple sclerosis, and MS is a progressive disease. It affects 2.8 million people worldwide, and there's no cure to it. And Matt said he had it twice. I heard the rumor was you can only get it once, but then as I got older, people said, it lingers in your body. It's part of the herpes simplex virus that stays in your body. The hypothesis is that EBV causes MS. It was studied by the military, that they looked at who had infections of mono, and then there was, I think it's at a 32-fold increase in the risk of MS after infection with EBV, but unchanged after infection with other viruses.
And EBV being what Epstein-Barr,
yes,
mono, right?
Yes, Epstein-Barr virus is the name for it, and mononucleosis is the term that we use. But I think that's a big, EBV doesn't have a cure. So we're saying that if you have mono, you're at a much higher risk of having MS. And I think this is, it said that EBV infects approximately 95% of adults, which...
That's crazy, yeah.
That's a lot. Yet MS is a relatively rare disease. So I'm not sure how that works, who's more at risk. But I think even just having that study of you're at a 32-fold increase of having it, I think is major.
And it was a longitudinal study, right? It was across.
Yeah, it said they conducted the study among 10 million young adults on active duty in the U.S. military and identified 955 who were diagnosed with MS during their period of service. And then I think it also said that about 10 years after initial mono infection, they saw, I guess, the appearance of MS, or I'm not sure, MS symptoms began about 10 years after initial EBV infection.
Wow. And then the part that I had highlighted where they said they think the delay between that infection and the onset of MS may be partially due to the disease's symptoms being undetected during the earliest stages, and partially due to the evolving relationship between EBV and the host of the person's immune system, which is repeatedly stimulated whenever latent virus reactivates. Since you said, just like Rachel said, that virus is still there. And,
this article came across my TikTok because I'm on long hauler TikTok from having COVID. And I think a lot of the research is very similar, that they're saying that long COVID is an inflammatory response. And I had that for about 6 months, my body was attacking itself. And the studies that they're trying to do for COVID right now, and people that are now coming up with autoimmune diseases after having COVID, I think this is a very similar thing. And they're looking to see how they've been able to pinpoint that EBV mono is possibly a cause of multiple sclerosis. I think this is going to be helpful in a lot of autoimmune arenas.
Fascinating too. And have any of you worked with patients with MS in your job?
No, I've worked
Only
with
in
some
grad school.
Parkinson's, but not MS.
Yeah, I've worked with Parkinson's as well, but not MS.
I haven't worked with people either. I think I know more people in real life outside of work that have MS. And I know a girl my age in high school that was diagnosed with MS a few years ago, and I believe she had mono in high school as well. So it's just making me think now when I'm looking at people, and I think who's the actress? Selma Blair, right? Has multiple sclerosis, and she's got documentaries about it. I think I saw something on Hulu or one of those streaming platforms about her race to find a cure or some treatment. And I think I know more people in friendships than I do. I've never treated anyone with MS.
So when I dove through the study, and I'll have a link to that as well, they said that what they wanted to try to do also was to weed out or to further explore whether immune dysregulation during the preclinical phase could increase susceptibility to viral infections. So they were doing random studies and found out that it was, or at least this shows that it was not the MS causing more susceptibility to the EPV.
That's a lot.
Interesting. I mean, it is, the more we find out about the body, the more I'm not surprised when we see studies like this and they say, hey, this simple thing that we thought was just a rite of passage of puberty and high school and college may actually be causing issues 5, 10, or 15 years down the road. It says antibodies are a strong, consistent predictor of MS risk in EBV positive individuals, even up to 15 to 20 years later as well. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Very interesting.
What do you do with it? Are you working with a patient with MS? Does this change anything that you thought? Let us know. Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, and email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. And while you're there, sign up for the Presence Learning Therapy Essentials giveaway. All right. In this part of the show, we used to call it the ASHA Spotlight, and now we have named it
ASHA.
What's up, ASHA?
What's up, ASHA? Thank you.
I wasn't here last week.
Michelle,
idea.
you missed it. We renamed this article or this part of the show. It's no longer the ASHA Spotlight. Sorry. It's What's Up, ASHA? And this is something that has been burning a hole in the back of my brain for as long as I can remember. And it is the encroachment of our friends, the occupational therapists, into dysphagia. And ASHA, according to the ASHA Wire, ASHA pushes back on use of OTs for dysphagia therapy. They're basically, this article says that ASHA is now coming out to say that OTs are not a solution in fixing fixing dysphagia. ASHA is engaging policymakers and industry stakeholders to promote the value of the SLP, responding to individual concerns, creating accessible and clear resources, supporting clinician provisions, and creating opportunities for enhancement of current skills. But ASHA is also asking us to do a few things. Would you like to know what they're asking us to do as SLPs to further promote this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Educate your boss on who should be handling dysphagia using their new resources. Share resources based off of the Code of Ethics, position statements, and dysphagia FAQs. Expanded telepractice for dysphagia services, and then to engage directly with ASHA, and they will help talk to your administrator one-on-one if need be. So, hey,
okay.
ASHA does a whole lot of things wrong, and we will throw them under the bus when we need to. But frickin' finally coming out to talk about OT encroachment into dysphagia. I mean, this always upsets me because, like, working in the adult side, I will be asked for a diet recommendation about a patient on a Monday, and then by the time I go and see them on a Tuesday, it's possible that the OT has already given diet recommendations. And it's like, well, then why am I even here?
I was curious how ASHA is working with or advocating for SLPs in NICUs and pediatric feeding, because I know that at hospitals I've been in where the OTs are the ones who do a lot of the NICU feeding with babies.
Who is it? OTs?
A lot of them. It just depends. It depends on the hospital. It depends on the staff. But yeah. So.
This says ASHA does not support the replacement of SLPs with OTs to meet patient needs. The fact that SLPs are the most qualified providers of dysphagia services is acknowledged by payer policies, current evidence, and SLP competencies in the field.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. I had been told once that OT's job with feeding is like from your hand to your mouth, bringing something
like from the
from
plate.
Yes,
and the situation, like because they deal with the whole setting too, right?
Yes,
right. Yeah.
Yes. So from your hand to your mouth, whether with a fork or however you're feeding yourself, but once it hits your lips, like that's the speech pathologist's field. But
I think there is going to be crossover with OTs and SLPs who have been through additional training together, you know, especially in that co-treat sort of setting where they are going to have crossover with oral motor and with intraoral. But I guess when it hits, I do feel, and ASHA is putting that out there, that speech pathologists, we have that specialty in the actual swallowing mechanism.
I'm happy that they're putting that out there. I think that's a good step for SLPs that work in the medical field, especially in those feeding settings, that they're looking for a little bit more backup from ASHA, and I think that's a good precedent to put forth.
I've even heard the gray area, Rachel, is OTs handle it until it gets to the tongue, and SLPs pick it up from once it crosses the lips. So there's like a little bit of a crossover, and it was mainly for like texture aversion. So for kids or adults that just can't handle I guess the sensory side. So
well,
I mean, that makes sense too.
You said that too, Matt, because myself working in pediatric outpatient clinic and co-treating a ton, which one of the jobs I had a couple of years ago, I co-treated with OT and PT a lot, and it was wonderful. And not all settings allow you to do that. But I learned, and we learned from each other, and I even had to pull up, this is all in a positive way, but pulled up ASHA's website because my coworkers were like, Michelle, like, we're not used to an SLP who even wants to touch sensory. And they were like, is that even within your scope? Because our OTs have always done anything related to feeding and sensory. And I was like, that's absolutely within our scope. And if you look at our scope of practice and you look at ASHA's guidelines for that, it's in there. And I have been through additional training in regards to feeding and pediatric feeding. So I was like, wait a second, like I'll find the stuff to back it up, but I know this is within my scope, and I want to be part of that for our patient as well. And so it was such a positive interaction. This was not a negative at all, but I was learning what her expertise was, and she was learning what mine is and how we could help each other too.
This thing also says training OTs in dysphagia service delivery can be potentially unethical for providers and dangerous for patients. So if you as an SLP are being asked to provide the training, feel free to contact ASHA and your state regulatory agency. That seems very weak, but I understand the association side. That is really strongly worded. And I know it sounds weak, but it's let your state agency know so then they can yell at your boss and find them and then potentially take away their license to practice. So I'm glad that didn't happen to you, Michelle, but that's what they're asking now for dysphagia services. So I think it's a good thing. I'm on the positive on this one. So
hey, can I throw something in there that I didn't get to share with you, but
yes, please.
Mentioned Wordle earlier, Matt.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
A little bit of transition. I just heard of this and I almost forgot to send it to you all and tell you. Have you heard of Hurdle?
Mm-mm.
No.
Heardle.
I think I have heard of that. Yes.
It is a phonemic version of Wordle.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
saw pictures of it.
And
All
I
right.
want to know if an SLP made this or a linguist or who made this, because I think it's great.
I heard it was the CDC made it.
Thank you. Thank you. There you go. Yeah.
I love all these little clones of Wordle. I really do.
It's
So
Wordle. It's all
Just
with
Matt-
IPA.
Matt needs to have a section every single podcast of the Erdles.
What's up, Erdle?
Yeah, what is he
Correct.
going to say every time he comes up with a new one?
I promise you, I'm not always going to be doing it.
I feel like Hurdle. I want to play it though. I haven't played it yet.
I don't remember my IPA to save my life.
The website, but
Yeah. Grad
but
school
also because
flashbacks.
depending your accent or how you say things, you might be using different
good
IPA.
call.
Right?
That's true. That's
Good
true.
call.
I went to leveling courses in Cleveland, like Kent, Ohio, at Kent State, and they told me I said the word umbrella wrong, and most of my
They
A's.
accent it differently.
Yeah, evidently how do you say umbrella?
No, I want to hear how you say it.
Umbrella.
Umbrella.
Yeah. See. Okay. So so you do the umbrella, and I'm like umbrella. Umbrella.
You do
It's the
middle
emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yes. Evidently, up there I should have said umbrella, and I'm like umbrella. Like
Okay. That's interesting because I always yell at my mom for saying promenade. She goes promenade. I'm like, what is that?
The
What
one
do you
that
mean?
got me in
the
my
rain in Spain.
because I did leveling classes as well, and this was before obviously the technology for every level online class was what it is now. But I had an online class and we had for phonetics, and there was no video involved. We would hop on a live chat for part of our class every week, and so I would be reading it and not know what it was supposed to sound like.
Oh my goodness.
For a phonetics class, right? Thankfully, I had taken linguistics before, so I had a baseline already. But that was pretty challenging to just be reading what people were typing and trying to figure it out in IPA. But the one that caught me is CAUGHT, CAUGHT, and COT.
Oh yeah.
I say them the same.
They are the same.
Depends
Caught.
on where you live in the country.
Caught.
I caught a raccoon in my cot.
I caught.
Yeah.
What-
See,
wait,
Mike.
so which one is that, Mike? Is that like
I don't know.
I slept in a cot or I caught a ball?
I caught a ball.
Caught.
If I say I caught
I
a
slept
ball.
on a cot or I caught a ball. Like they're
Yeah.
the same.
Me too.
Right.
But other people would say I slept on a cot and I caught a ball.
Yeah, it still sounds the same. To me.
Caught a ball.
It's a diphthong.
I am such a terrible speech therapist, everybody.
What about what do you drink in the morning that you brew?
Coffee.
Coffee.
It's the same vowel, yeah.
Coffee.
Wait, how do you say the state that I live in?
Florida.
Florida.
Okay, people say Florida.
Like
Florida.
fluoride?
You say it Florida.
I don't say Florida. I say Florida, but I think it's more New York that my
Yeah, that sounds right.
extended family.
How
Florida.
about what you use to color with, like a Crayola?
Crown.
Crayon.
Not a crown. Not a crown.
Are you gonna say crayon? Crayon?
It's crayon. It's crayon.
I color
I
my
say crayon.
Crayon.
I use my crowns to color my crown.
Crown.
I think I just literally just made Michelle like shudder and just horrid.
You had a weird noise coming from your mic, bro.
Yeah, I
that
was
too.
fixing it there too. Yeah.
You should
Okay.
have-
So.
That was your mic hearing you say crown.
All right. So as we wrap this up, I want to ask you guys this. I was listening to I listened to a ton of different podcasts, and they range from like wrestling podcasts to nerd podcasts to science podcasts. And they were saying in the next 40 to 60 years, the individual accent will be gone. What do you all think of that? As people that are language experts, do we believe that the majority of accents, especially in America, I guess they was talking about American accents, will be erased in the next 40 to 60 years? And the reason they say that is the continuation or the proliferation of digital media. The TV news anchor who is located in California, Cleveland, Florida, New York, Boston, they all sound the same now. Are we going to see the elimination, of the majority of accents? I kind of could see it. What do you guys think?
I don't know about the elimination of a majority of accents. I think if they're comparing it to 40 to 60 years, and you go back 40 to 60 years, what you saw on TV was that Pan-Atlantic accent, that when you look at old movies and old just videos, like family videos, and that accent that you're like, what is that? That we don't have that anymore. I think that they're going to look back at how we speak and have more questions about it, but I do agree with the media and everything that a lot of the newer generation is starting to sound the same no matter where they live. New York, California, the South, it's kind of molding into one. But I don't think the elimination of major ones, because we have such distinct, if you think of Louisiana South versus like the Carolinas, it's very, very different. So I don't think that it will completely eliminate, but I think the the standard dialect that we have will be a little bit different. The standard is going to be different.
I think what you said with the standard is where my brain went initially, of if we're talking about having more of a streamlined accent across all sort of social media and technology, I could see that being the case. There being kind of a centralized accent for that.
An American accent.
But I don't think you're never gonna eliminate.
I mean, accents get eliminated though, man.
Okay, but there's still gonna be a variety,
right?
I guess, is my thought.
That's fair.
There's gonna be a variety because there's gonna be pockets of people all over.
Mike, from the New York area, Jersey area, are you going to lose? Do you see that accent going anywhere?
No.
That's all I'm saying. Such a New York answer.
No, that's ridiculous.
I don't know, man, though. Like, having worked on the TV side, we would tell anchors to get rid of their accents as quickly as they could.
Why?
Is that the right thing to do?
That's kind of messed up, dude.
So, is it the right thing? I don't know, but like, you have to remember that in media there are these people that are called consultants, and their job and the idea behind the consultant is, and I see what they're saying, but the idea behind the consultant is, Rachel, when you turn on your radio in Florida and you listen to your top 40 station in Orlando, it should sound, from the anchors to the topics to the music, it should sound the same if you're in New York City or Denver, Colorado, or Seattle, Washington.
I don't care if it is or not. I'm so close to Miami. So if I turn on even just my Fort Lauderdale news station and you have someone with a Miami accent, it's still that news anchorish thing, but I can hear that the L's are more pronounced and it's very different. And I still think that there's going to be some influence, and I understand the consultants, I think, have always said, the goal of the media, like for the consultant thing, is to make sure that every word is understood no matter what dialect they speak. But I think it's really not that hard to understand different accents in general. I don't know.
I
love this kind of stuff. I love changing of times and accents. I don't know why.
I was told, and I don't have anything
enjoyed.
to base this on, but back in my undergrad with communication, public relations was one of my degrees, that I remember in a class with media communication learning that the Dayton, Ohio area and the Columbus area accent, because it's so bland and there's nothing interesting about the vowels and everything else, that is an accent that they'll coach broadcasters or news anchors to speak more like.
Midwest news anchor is what
which I thought is so interesting, because but it's a very specific area of the Midwest, because the Midwest has a lot of vowel accents in different parts. So I don't know if I don't have some resource to cite that, but I remember learning that.
See, my umbrella and my cot, the raccoon in the cot, is correct.
Okay.
Just saying. Oh, man, we look forward to hearing from you. Make sure you head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. Our music tonight, our intro music was Please Listen Carefully by Jazar. It's licensed under an attribution and share alike license. Our bump music was County Fair Rock, copyrighted John Deku. Find his music at soundcloud.com/dirtdogmusic. The Informed SLP had At the Count by Broke for Free, licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license. And our closing music is The Slow Burn by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license. And we are still taking submissions for new music. Is that right? I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So, in the immortal words of Janice Wright, always be a willow. The oak looks strong and mighty until the storm comes and knocks it over and it breaks. The willow will bend and return to form. For fellow willows, Rachel, Michelle, Michael, the absent Marie, I am Matt Hott. Until next week, so long, everybody.
Bye.
Episode number 156 of the Speech Science Podcast was brought to you by Presence Learning and their platform, Therapy Essentials. Michelle, how nice would it be to future-proof your career?
I mean, if by future-proof you mean options for teletherapy, then I feel like Therapy Essentials is right where it's at.
Well, Michelle, you're the only one of all of us who have been licensed in more than 3 different states, and I feel like teletherapy is right up your alley.
I agree with that. And I mean, especially if you're looking at trying to do teletherapy in different places with this interstate compact that is happening with our career with SLPs, you can do that with Therapy Essentials by Presence Learning. For more information, and you can also start a free trial, be sure to visit presencelearning.com and click on our platform at the top of the homepage.
Speech Science is edited and produced by MWH Production. Please follow Speech Science on Twitter at Speech Science PC and like our page on Facebook. And rate and subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.